Okay, we're going to get started and see, I'm getting my video going. Okay, all right, great. Okay, all right, we're here. Hi, my name is Michael Dobson, and I'm the President CEO of the Dream Foundation, PAT, and the Dream Foundation organization. And I want to welcome the viewers here for an interview conversation that we're having with congressional candidate Natalie Jackson. She is running for the Congress in the District 10 that was formerly represented by Congresswoman Val Demings, who is now a candidate for the U.S. Senate. Some of you may have heard of Ms. Jackson. She is well known as the attorney for Trayvon Martin, and she has been nationally recognized as a civil rights attorney on a variety of cases around the country. And I wanted to kind of give you guys an opportunity to get to know a little bit about Ms. Jackson and her motivations for running for this congressional seat, and to get some sense of the fire, I believe, that she's going to bring to the U.S. Congress on behalf of Floridians. And I'll just kind of stop there. And Natalie, if you could kind of give a brief kind of overview and of your bio and just an introduction of yourself to the audience here.
Sure. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me on this platform. My name is Natalie Jackson. I'm a mother. I'm a Navy veteran, a small business owner, and a civil rights attorney. I've represented the families of Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, and Andre Hill. I was born in Central Florida, here in Sanford, Florida. My parents were both school teachers, they're ministers, and they were foster parents in the community. They were also civil rights activists and community organizers, so I grew up with that. At the age of 18, after high school, I enlisted in the Navy. When I was in the Navy, I ended up getting an ROTC scholarship to Hampton University. While I was at Hampton University, I had my son, so I understand the struggles of being a single parent. I understand the struggles of finding housing, adequate childcare, and all of that. So I was a single parent at Hampton University. I graduated from Hampton and became a naval intelligence officer. My first duty station, one of my first duty stations, was aboard the USS Roosevelt, where I was among the first group of women to be on a combat carrier. After I left the Roosevelt, I was assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I worked at the Pentagon on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I spent 2.5 years working on the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C., where I learned a lot about foreign policy and international affairs. From there, I ended up departing from the military, and I went to University of Florida Law School, so Levin's College of Law at the University of Florida. I graduated from there and opened my own law firm, so I understand the struggles of a small business owner. And in opening my own law firm, I became a civil rights attorney. And during my civil rights career here in Central Florida, I've represented a lot of families, a lot of people against corporate entities and government entities and their abuses. The two of the cases that I'm most proud of in the Central Florida area, one is I represented a group of barbershop owners in the Pines Hills area. They were raided by the police under the guise of doing a licensing inspection. We sued the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Business and Professional Regulations for doing this joint raid of these businesses and disrupting their businesses. And we were able to overcome qualified immunity, and more than just getting monetary settlements for my clients, we were able to prevent this type of discriminatory actions against small business owners. Another case that I'm very proud of, so we were able to change the laws and prevent that from happening again. Another case that I'm very proud of, I represented the family of Tory Breedlove. Tory Breedlove was shot and killed by Orange County sheriffs. He was shot, there were over 100 bullets shot at him at the time. And once again, we were able to change policies and the procedures in Orange County where the sheriff's office agreed not to shoot into moving cars unless it was absolutely necessary. So those are the things that I've worked on in my career. And once again, like I said, we worked on Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor. I work with attorney Benjamin Crump on a lot of these cases, co-counseling. And I'm very passionate about constitutional rights.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. One of the things that I wanted to ask is you spent a lot of time in the courtrooms, representing people fighting for civil rights, frankly, fighting civil rights, equality, and trying to make sure that our nation upholds that good work that was done in the 60s regarding civil rights, which frankly is something that we can't sleep on. It's constantly a battle. And I was wondering, being an attorney, working in the courtrooms, and now you're running for political office, what is it that you think that you're going to be able to accomplish as a lawmaker, in which you see is lacking, if you will, when you're practicing law and et cetera, and how can you improve upon the laws that you attorneys have to wrestle with when you're in the courtroom, and how can you improve upon that as a lawmaker?
Well, I'll tell you that one of the reasons that I'm running for Congress is because on January 6th, I was appalled by the tribalism and separatism that corrupt and selfish politicians orchestrated to undermine our democracy, also that they could maintain power. I feel like America is at a precipice right now, and I feel like this is not the time for politics and business as usual. We have to work together. We have to be able to compromise. The cult of personalities in politics needs to end, because really, to be honest, no one person, no Trump, no one person in office is going to save us. We have to work together. We have to compromise, and we have to fight for economic and social equality. And that fight requires us to put forth inclusive national policies and laws. So what I want to bring to Congress is proven servant leadership. My military service has proven that, my service in the community has proven that, my civil rights service in this community, specifically where I'm running, has proven that. I'm not afraid to have those tough conversations. I'm not afraid to put bold ideas into action. I understand that public service isn't about personal ambition or selfish gain. I know that it's about working together, even with people you don't like, and fighting for something greater than ourselves, which to me is a safe, healthy, and prosperous and inclusive America.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned in the opening about your work in the local community and the various cases and which you've had to challenge rules and et cetera, and the application of policies of police departments. And with George Floyd, and gosh, I'm sure there's a plethora of cases out there in which there have been instances where law enforcement has overstepped, quite frankly, and I'm kind of wondering, from a legislative viewpoint, based on your experience in the courtroom, what do you view as the real changes and the things that you're going to try to pursue, as a member of Congress with regards to police reform?
Right. So there's already the George Floyd Policing Act that has been proposed in Congress. And I have to say, I'm very proud to be endorsed by George Floyd's brother, Felonious Ford, along with attorney Benjamin Crump, who worked on that case. So I'm very proud to have their endorsements. And I've worked with them in the George Floyd Policing Act already. It stalled in Congress, of course, but that's one of the things that we will be pushing forward with.
Okay, thank you. And as you know, historically, in what we might call an off-year election after a president has been elected, I guess guys in my profession would suggest that is more likely that the GOP would perhaps take charge of Congress. And I hope that doesn't happen, quite frankly.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say that will happen.
Exactly. But I think it's important for voters to know how important it is to have a fighter like you that's gonna be in Congress with the possibility that may be in a minority. Right. And I'm trying to wonder what has been your experience, working, with the other side and coming to some type of agreement in the work.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Michael, because I know so many times the public sees the side when we are on these cases, and I mean civil rights. First of all, I have to say civil rights is nothing more than constitutional rights. So a lot of people don't understand that. They think that, it was a part of the 60s movement. It was the civil rights movement, but civil rights are human rights. They're rights that are guaranteed to us in the Constitution, in the US Constitution. They are available to everyone, not just a specific group of people. So everyone in America enjoys these rights. And so when we're talking about this, so many times the media, they show the parts where we're out in the protest, and protest is very important. And the activists and organizers that work on these cases, they are very, very important to moving and getting the needle moved. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of negotiations. There's a lot of policies being put forth. I will tell you, Attorney Ben Crump is one of the hardest working men that I know. And while many people see his settlements and they see the protests, they don't see the policies and procedures that are enacted in the different states on the different cases that he's worked on. That's why it was important for me to talk about the policies and procedures that I have helped promulgate here in my district with cases like the Tory Breedlove case, and with cases like the Pine Hills barbershop raids, because a lot of this stuff, it's not something the media would cover. The back doors and where you're talking and you're sitting in that room and you're coming to negotiations. Not everybody is going to get what they want. A successful negotiation is where you get something. And they get something, and everybody walk away feeling like, dang, I didn't get everything I want. That's a successful negotiation. Okay. So I understand. I taught negotiations at FAMU Law School. So I understand how negotiations work. I understand that, working together for a common good is important. And when you work together for a common good, you put all your egos, all your opinions about each other aside to work for that common good. And I think this is where my military background comes in, because while I was in the military, of course, I worked with people from all over the United States and some other countries. So there's different types of people with different types of politics, with different types of beliefs, but our common good was the safety of American people. Mm-hmm. And so it's working together for those common goods. That is really the key. So how I feel about you, how you feel about me is not my business. What my constituents in my district need, that's my business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to mention a little trivia here for those who are watching that you and I have talked about, in the past. And that trivia is that while you were in the military, you worked as, I think, was it subordinate? You worked with former Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll in the military.
Yes, I
And
did. She was,
you were talking about how you don't disagree. She's Republican, you're Democrat, and you guys you serve the country together.
yeah, she was one of my mentors actually, in the military. I really looked up to her while we were there, and she really advised me a lot. So yes.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Now, I want to ask you another question. You've never run for office before. You obviously have been in the public spotlight, and you've done great work. You've made a great name for yourself. Running for office, what has surprised you about it when you're out there? I mean, no, I'm just curious. When since you're doing this, is there things that have happened that's kind of surprised you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a politician, so I was very much surprised about all the money that it takes to run these political campaigns. And it really made me recognize why, because I always wonder, like, why good people don't run. A lot of, I mean, and I know that there are good people in politics, but I see people who I feel should run for office. But now I know it's very prohibitive. The cost is very prohibitive. I was out getting petitions the other day, and one of the things that I was talking to some of my constituents with was about they didn't know that you can either get petitions or you can pay a $10,400 qualifying fee. Yeah. So, and we were discussing how democracy really should be free. So, that's why I decided to get petitions instead of just paying that money, because we really have to get some of this money out of politics and allow people to have a voice and not just the person with the deep pockets.
And you mentioned your work at Florida A&M Law School, and I would be remiss not to kind of talk about what's happening today, and that's regarding the confirmation of Ms. Jackson for the U.S. Supreme Court. And as an attorney and someone who's taught law, how do you feel about what you've been seeing so far?
I am so impressed by her demeanor, her intellect, the way that she is handling this. She understands the job. She understands that this is what you do. You are coldly logical and factual. And she is making sure that they understand the facts, and she's making a logical argument. That's what we expect of our judges. We don't have to, I think by now everyone understands that she is more than qualified for this job. But what I have most been impressed by is her demeanor. Her demeanor has been so graceful, and it's the demeanor that we would want from a judge. She refuses to predict things. She's telling them, I need to see the facts. I need to, hear the arguments. That's what we want for a judge. We don't want a judge to come in with preconceived notions, with their own feelings, their own opinions. We want them to listen to the arguments, to understand the facts of the case, to listen to what was presented and make an opinion. I am so proud to be a part of this time. One of my first memories is when Sandra Day O'Connor was appointed to the Supreme Court. She was the first woman appointed to the Supreme Court. I remember when President Reagan appointed her, and I remember watching television on that, and I was proud then. And that was one of the things that it solidified that I wanted to be a lawyer. And so when I see Judge Brown Jackson representing us as Black women, I am just so proud. We could not have a better representation. And not only, and I say that just personally because I am a Black woman, but America could not have a better representation in a justice of the Supreme Court than her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll just say something, my own little editorializing is, and I mentioned this the other day on another interview, and something that's kind of annoyed me, frankly, is this overall conversation and questioning about qualifications. I can't, maybe you can, but I can't remember a time when someone sat in that seat in her position, and there was ever a question about qualification, there were questions about perhaps their temperament and their view of the law, and all those other kind of technical things. But as an African American, I was taught as a young boy that we had to work twice as hard, and we had to be twice as qualified to be even equal sometimes. And I'm sure that she knew that too, and she did the work. Obviously, she did the work. She's obviously qualified, but there's this constant question. I just find it bizarre, and it's angering.
I think that if there is a question, and I think most of those questions have been squashed by at least among a crowd that reads the newspaper or follows the media, because I think they have outlined in depth her Harvard education, her previous judicial education, her previous sitting on the sentencing board, her previous clerkship under Supreme Court clerkship.
Right.
So I think that anybody who is questioning her qualifications, they're not keeping in touch with the media and understanding what's going on in this case. They are deliberately not paying attention.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I have not seen it. I think that it's fair to question qualifications, especially when we've seen some of the judges. I hate to say this, it's fair to question qualifications when we've seen some people who have been appointed by Trump. So it is fair to do that. And I think that we should, and I think people should question my qualifications in being a congressperson. I think everybody's qualifications should be questioned, because we want the best and the brightest leading this country that can help people. So, or the best that we can get in the race, so I don't have a problem with people questioning qualifications. What I have a problem about is deliberate ignorance once you've been proven, once the receipts have been shown.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that has been going on in public policy over the last few years has been the issue of voting. As you know, Florida and many other states have passed laws that many would suggest are voter suppression, that impact minorities, and it's kind of like a turning back of the clock, if you will, on the Voting Rights Amendment of the 1960s, and in Congress, as you know, I believe the House did pass this piece of legislation, and then in the Senate you have that crazy filibuster thing. As a member of Congress, how do you? I'm sure you're going to continue to support it, but how do you see yourself being able to push the needle a little bit to really get it across the threshold?
Right. And once again, I think that it's consensus building. And that's where many of those things are where you're talking to people, you're bringing forth persuasive arguments. And when I say persuasive arguments, this is where my legal background comes in. Persuasive arguments are not based on your emotions or how you feel. They are based on white paper facts. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I think we should be presenting, not only to our colleagues when we're talking to these people, but just to the public in general, and making it simple, because if you have the public support, the voters rule. We work for the voters. So whatever the voters think and whatever they believe is important, trust me, the politicians will think is important too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's another kind of a different policy item, and that's the issue of abortion in America and Roe v. Wade. I would argue that the Republican Governors Association has decided that it's going to pursue what I would consider the long game.
Right.
You know, and that is to pass legislation like the one that we've just passed in the state of Florida regarding 15 weeks, you know, and all that. You know, knowing that, you know, these bills are going to be challenged in court. You know, so I'm not an attorney, you are.
Right. Well,
But
let me
I
say
kind of
that
see it as the long game to get these things to the U.S. Supreme Court to have the right justices there to actually to eradicate Roe v. Wade. You know, and I'm is there a role you think in Congress for, you know, if what I'm saying is true, if there's this real long game, I mean, is there a role in Congress, do you think?
yes, there is a role. And I think, first of all, when we have this discussion, this is not a discussion about abortion. This is about the government intrusion into your privacy right to decide when to have children. So, you know, this is something I think that a reframing, and they're activist groups, you know, these activist groups, they've been doing this. So there's nothing new under the sun. I'm not telling you anything new that people have not been working on in these issues. But the reframing is that this is a government intrusion into your privacy rights, which are your constitutional rights. So government should not be telling people what to do with their bodies and when they should be able to procreate, when and where they should procreate. So I think that there is, you know, there's an opportunity, and there are different theories out there about how to change this. And so when we talk about Congress or whatever, Congress can, you know, we can enact a new constitutional amendment that says, you know, that government should not be involved in the decision making of people and whether or not they beget a child. So, and there, you know, there's language already out there of different activist groups on these issues. So many of these issues that we talk about, they're government intrusions. And that is that's something I believe that Republicans and Democrats can agree upon, that we want to limit government intrusion into the rights, the constitutional rights, or from encroaching on the constitutional rights and the inalienable rights of people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you kind of another question. What would people be surprised to know about you?
I think that, gosh, wow. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of aspects of things that people would be surprised to know about me. You know, I am, once again, I can go back to the fact that many people have seen me on television and they see me at protests you know, yelling into a speaker. I can fight, I can be loud, but I can also, as my grandmother say, you attract more bees with honey. So I'm out, I can actually negotiate and be conciliatory and do what we need to do to get things done. So I think many people, when you see what you see is that in my job is that I'm a civil rights attorney, and you see me on television at these protests or whatever, but that's not my job. My job is actually to defend the Constitution, to defend people's rights, to make sure that we live in an equal and just society. And so whatever means that we need to do that when government abuses people or any other entity abuses people, then I will do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are surprised about that. They think I'm just a fighter, and I am a fighter, but I'm a lover and a fighter.
Well, it's kind of funny when you were talking about that, what I was thinking about, and I can't remember if you shared this before, but I've never met your mother, but I've heard of her. If I recall, your mother is Frances Oliver. And as
Yes,
I
Frances
understand,
Oliver.
as I understand it, your mother was, she was quite, she's probably still is quite the civil rights a fighter, an advocate. And you got to see that early on, and it kind of makes me think of again Miss Jackson, who is up to sit on the Supreme Court, and just what we see as kids to emulate, and how those things inform us, and and I'll just say that I'm a fan, I'm a supporter, of you, and when you look at Congress today.
Thank you.
What do you think is missing in terms of, and this sounds like a weird question, but what do you think is really missing in terms of how we fight for civil rights? Because sometimes I think we parse words and we don't speak directly about what's happening. But how would you approach things differently than perhaps some others to take that you learn, watching your mother and watching others? I mean, how would you approach it differently?
Yeah. So my mother, she was a school teacher. She's a minister. She's a foster parent. She is a community organizer. She's an activist. She has been this all my life. She's a small business owner. She's been this all my life. So one of the things that I think that I have, the approach that I will take, and like I said, I'm sure there are other people in Congress who take the same approach. But one of the things that I believe that is missing with some people is that there are no strategic long-term plans laid. And the strategic long-term plans that are being laid, they are often they're often person-centered as opposed to being goal-centered. And by that, what I mean is that once the person is voted out or dies or whatever, then the plan kind of goes away. So I believe, and this is just a business org also, philosophy is that you need systems. So a strategic long-term plan does not depend on me being there. It should go on whether I'm there or not, because my office really comes about every 2 years. If I win Congress, I'll have to apply for this job every 2 years. And so if I'm going to lay down strategic long-term plans, those plans should not be dependent on me. So that any cog should come in there that the voters decide should be the person to represent them, should be able to continue those plans. And so my goal is to do that, is to have a continuously long-term plan, and also to mentor other politicians, younger politicians, to come up under me that can be plugged into that if I'm not there. So I think that that's very important. I also think it's important, even as I'm running in this campaign, it's important for voters to know that if they're investing in me and they're donating to my campaign, if I don't win, this is not going to go away, my ideas and my issues that you are supporting me for. So, it's important to have a plan, and that plan would be to support a PAC, to form a PAC, and that continues to put forth these ideas and issues. And so I think one of the things that has been missing, and one of the things that I would bring, is that vision and that goal, and a goal that is not dependent on me to be a part of it, that can continue even if I'm not a part of it.
Yeah, I like that, because I can tell you around this state, frankly, around this country, I've seen situations where you have somebody that's been on the city council for 27 years or what have you, and there's nobody ready to take their place. I mean, and they didn't groom anybody either.
Right, and there are nobody that. Right. So it's grooming, and it's also, there's nobody that understands their plan. So you have to also have a plan that will continue without you being there. That's any good organization. Any good organization will keep on rolling, whether you're there or not. So that's any good plan. And that's what I think that we need. All the issues that I have, and you can check out my issues on www.nataliejacksonforcongress, all the issues that I have, that I'm putting forth, these are issues, and the way that I'm putting them forth, they're issues that can continue, and these are issues that I'm not going to let go. I got into this race, I got into politics because during the work that I do, I became very passionate about these issues. And so in this is not a one time or one and done for me. I'll continue, and I have been working on these issues for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, there's another issue that I'm passionate about, and the Dream Foundation as an organization is passionate about, and we work with the legislature and frankly on the federal level on the issue of criminal justice reform. And it's an important issue for me because I believe that over the past 40 or 50 years, the way that the broken system of justice and how it's administered, has impacted the Black family in ways that is tremendous, actually, generational, and it's broken intact families in some cases, and the generational impacts of it, and the unjust distribution of the system sometimes, and what are your goals with regard to criminal justice reform? And I'm sure that that's a part of your platform, and how do you see approaching that as a member of Congress?
Right. So that's an entry part in my platform. Of course, with the work that I've been doing, this is what I've been doing for 20 years. So, we've had those arguments and what needs to happen laid out by people like Michelle Alexander, the new Jim Crow, Brian Stevenson, Just Mercy. And I'm committed to dismantling mass incarceration. I'm committed to ending for-profit prisons. I'm committed to ending the school to prison pipeline, to ending police violence. And then I'm also committed to working with people like Desmond Meade in our community to help ex-offenders reintegrate into society, and including, providing them housing assistance, drug, alcohol, and mental health treatment, helping them to get licensing, helping them to get permits and job training so that they can become a good part of this. And the way we do that is, in Congress, we have purse strings. Really, that's what we do, right? Mm-hmm. So we can incentivize that. And I think that what we found is that that's justice reform is kind of across the aisle issue, if it's framed correctly. So I do think that's one of the platforms that I have that I feel that I can, really, really have a lot of success on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have, I guess we're going to end soon, but I do have one or two more questions I'm going to try to squeeze in here. One is something that, frankly, personally, is my frustration with the Democratic Party sometimes, and that is that I see a party that doesn't talk about family as much as I like for it to talk, and it doesn't talk about business as much as I think it should talk about business. And as an African American business woman, and the way that the world has changed, regarding entrepreneurial opportunities and et cetera, we no longer live in this world where someone's going to work for some company for 40 years and get a gold watch. It's not like that anymore. And how do you what kind of policies that you want to approach to kind of lift some of the barriers of entry for African American entrepreneurs and companies to better prosper in America?
So my three major platforms are jobs and economy, affordable housing, and criminal justice reform. Of course, economic equality, healthcare, the climate control, human rights, education reform, those are all important, but I think they all fit under the jobs and economic platform. So some of the policies, of course, that we have to create sustainable energy. We've been talking about that. And in creating sustainable energy, we create jobs.
Right.
And so, with the infrastructure bill that is coming along, there's been billions, trillions of dollars allotted here. That means that there are going to be job creation. So my goal in Congress is to make sure those jobs come to my district and to get as many of those jobs in my district as possible. With the affordable housing, when we're talking about that, that's our huge issue in Central Florida. And how do we strengthen the National Affordable House Trust Fund? Those are things that we need to make sure that, we're permanently funding those. We're strengthening the Fair Housing Act. We're reimagining, building, and revitalizing public housing. And expanding low-income housing tax credit. There's so much, that our job entails, and there's so much that I plan to bring to this district with my election that I'm really excited about some of those things. Now, those are tangible things that I think we can see.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you were just talking about. You were just talking about tax credits and things of that nature. And I think there's some things that we can do on a local level, frankly, regarding how local governments deal with permitting for
Permitting,
housing,
yes.
to make it more affordable.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean,
and even reimagining, denser housing areas. So, where we're now, thinking about that stuff. So this is all stuff that we need to really be thinking about. And that's when I talk about that systemic long-term plans. Those are things in those systemic long-term plans. And some of the things that have already passed, through Congress that we can look forward to. How do I make sure that my district is included in that? How do I make sure that the people, the businesses, the small businesses in my district is included in that? One of the things that I told you in the beginning is that, I'm a small business owner. I understand the plight from the employer's perspective and the employee's perspective. So how do we reconcile that and make sure that, the people who are employing people are not unfairly punished for being the employer? And how do we make sure employees are able to have a livable wage so that they can go on and provide for their families and for their future? So those are the issues that I feel that, those are common things. There are common things where it's across the board. GOP, I don't care what you are, independent, Democrat, Republican, I don't care what you are. You care about feeding your family. You care about upper mobility. You care about making sure your children are educated. You care about safe, affordable housing. You care about not being overtaxed. So those are things that are common to everyone.
Gosh, I know that we talked earlier, and I know you got someplace else to go. And there's so many things that I wish we could talk about because we didn't get to talk about education.
Right.
Very important. There's funding for HBCUs and right. Things of that nature that we talk about, and there's going to be there's constantly some challenges and changes that are being pursued, regarding the affordable health care.
Definitely. With prescriptions for seniors and making sure people are taken care of. Education, we got to find some way where people are able to get their college degrees without being overextended on loans. And we have to stop predatory lending against people. We have to protect our children's future. And I know, and I do have to go, and hopefully we'll be back. You'll invite me back so we can continue to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. But before we go, the Dream Foundation supports Natalie Jackson's campaign, and we are asking you guys to support her. Please tell the viewers, how can they get in contact with you? How can they donate to your campaign? And anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say, with this, the only way that I can win is if I can reach 800,000 people in this district. I can't reach them just by talking to them. I need digital, I need media, I need direct mail, and those things cost. So if my message resonates with you, please invest in this campaign. And you can go to www.nataliejacksonforcongress.com. You can donate there, you can volunteer. I understand that many people are feeling the pressure of not being, of coming out of COVID, coming out of a pandemic, these high gas prices, this inflation. So I understand not everyone may be able to donate their money, but please donate your time if you can't donate your money. And I appreciate everything. I really, really want to help. I'm here to help, to serve this district and this community. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Natalie. And I'm sure that you and I will be talking, and you have a great rest of your evening. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to the voters today, and good luck. I'm sure we'll be talking. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Hey, bye-bye.